I just met many teachers along the way, and a lot of them, said inspiring and motivating things. But the biggest problem is that you listen to inspiration, you go home, you tell yourself, I'm going to do everything he said or she said, and you do it for a week, and then all the inspiration goes away, and you default back to who you are.
Herzlich willkommen bei Greater. Heute habe ich das Vergnügen, ein ganz besonderes Interview zu führen. Jetzt bei mir zu Gast ist Dandapani. Dandapani ist einer der führenden spirituellen Lehrer in den USA. Heute unterstützt er viele Menschen, insbesondere Unternehmer in den USA, aber auch darüber hinaus, ein erfolgreiches, glückliches und vor allen Dingen erfülltes Leben zu führen. Das Interview werde ich auf Englisch mit ihm führen und ich freue mich sehr, dass er da ist. Herzlich willkommen, Dandapani. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really great that you take the time. I know that you are very busy with your work, maybe especially in these times. First of all, I want to talk about the elephant which is in the room. So maybe you can explain the greater community, what is the reason or what is the meaning behind the 3 lines you have on your forehead?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a Hindu priest, and in Hinduism there are 4 sects, 4 denominations or groups, you could say. I belong to one of them, which is the oldest group, called Shaivism. And the 3 lines, it's ash, and the first line represents your ego. So quite often in spirituality they say you shouldn't have an ego. You hear that quite commonly. We don't believe that. We believe that everyone has an ego. As long as you have a preference, I like pizza instead of hamburgers, I like this, I don't like that. You have an ego, personality. So the goal is to cultivate a positive personality, a positive ego, someone who's kind, generous, charitable, industrious. So cultivate a positive ego. The second line has to do with karma, which is the law of cause and effect, that every action and reaction has consequences. So by controlling your actions and by controlling your reactions, you can control a lot of what happens in your life. And a lot of people think of karma as only action, what I do and think and say, and they forget about the other half of karma, which is reaction. So for example, if you came up to me, Alex, and you said, hey, Dandapani, your shawl is really ugly, and I have a choice to hit you, or I can say, okay, I should go shopping. And how I react determines my future. And the last line is delusion, and it says that quite often in life we get caught up with people and things that don't really matter, and we forget what our priorities are, and we forget what our purpose in life is. So always bringing your focus back to your purpose in life and the priorities that are defined by your purpose. Because the byproduct of living a life that's in alignment with your priorities and in alignment with your purposes is happiness. And ultimately, everybody wants to be happy. Nobody wants to live a miserable life. So that's the 3 lines.
Yeah, very interesting. I think you talked about a lot, which we are talking about at Greater, the whole festival, with many people. What is really very interesting when it comes to purpose, what is your purpose? Why are you doing what you are doing?
Yeah. So what I'm doing now is actually my sub-purpose in my life. It's not my core purpose in life. My core purpose in life is self-realization or enlightenment, you could say. And that could be defined. It means different things to different people. And I have a definition of that, but I won't get into that. But self-realization or enlightenment is my core purpose in life. My sub-purpose in life is to impact humanity. One of my sub-purposes, impact humanity and the environment. So, when I joined the monastery as a young man, I was only interested in enlightenment. I wasn't really interested in anything else, helping people or making a difference in the world. And then I lived with my guru, who was an amazing human being, who I felt was extremely enlightened. But I saw in him and the way he led his life that you can pursue enlightenment at the same time help everyone around you and make an impact in the world, not only just to people, but to the environment as well. So one of my sub-purposes in life, besides pursuing my own enlightenment, is to create an impact in people's lives and to impact the environment, because we as humans need the environment, right? If we have a shitty earth that's all falling apart with dirty water and dirty food and dirty air, we're not going to survive. And we're both equally dependent on each other. So caring for the environment is very important for me as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. I just wrote your bio, and you was a monk for 10 years and lived in that monastery, as you said, with your guru, so to say, on Hawaii. But you also said that, I also read that you studied electronical engineering before, so you really had, let's say, from our Western perspective, a normal life, even a quite technical and very analytical job or study. Yeah. So how does it come when you said you was not interested in spirituality, you had no clue about it? How does it came from such a, let's say, normal path you have been to getting a monk?
Yeah, no, I was always interested in the spirituality. What I was saying earlier that I wasn't interested in really helping people or making a difference in the world. That was what. But when I wanted to be a monk since I was 4 or 5 years old. And ever since then, it was really a quest to try and find a teacher that can help me, because I realized that I can't make progress without somebody helping me, right? If I want to learn the piano and I want to learn it well, it's helpful to have a teacher, right? So the same way I felt, if I want to make progress in my spirituality, I need to find a teacher. And I just met many teachers along the way, and a lot of them, said inspiring and motivating things. But the biggest problem is that you listen to inspiration, you go home, you tell yourself, I'm going to do everything he said or she said, and you do it for a week, and then all the inspiration goes away, and you default back to who you are. So I went through high school, and then I went to university, studied electrical engineering, and then it was then in my second year of engineering school, which I met my guru. And when I met him, I made the decision that I would join his monastery, but he wanted me to finish my degree before I could join. So I had to spend a couple more years in university. I got my degree, and then I left and went to Hawaii.
Yeah, you left there for 10 years. You lived there for 10 years. You was a monk for 10 years. Now you are a priest, which is what I learned is a difference. So this also your clothes are, if I got you right, were clothes of a priest and not of a monk, which is quite similar.
They're very similar, but it's very subtle to tell the difference. I mean, unless you're trained, you can know the difference. If not, but they're very similar. Monks and Hindu priests dress very similarly.
Yeah. So what were your key learnings from these 10 years? How do you get happiness? How do you get fulfillment, self-realization, which is your purpose, and I think is a good purpose for every human being. So what are the key learnings? How to get there? I think now the people are starting to make notes.
Yeah, I would say, I think self-realization, like you, is a good purpose, but it's not for everybody, right? The first step really, Alex, is getting clear on. And now we're talking only specifically about spirituality, right? Not about business or work or anything like that. We're talking specifically about spirituality. So for me, the first step in spirituality is becoming clear what your philosophy is. What type of philosophy do you subscribe to? So for example, in the world, there's so many different religions, right? You have the Abrahamic religions, you have the Eastern religions. So, for example, if you subscribe to an Abrahamic religion, just say for Christianity or Islam, then they believe in one God. They also believe in one life. They don't believe in karma. They don't believe in reincarnation. They believe you're born, you live, you die. Potentially, there may be a judgment day in some of them, and then you go to heaven or hell. So it's very different than an Eastern religion, for example, like Buddhism or Hinduism or Taoism, where they believe in reincarnation, so that when you die, you come back again, you continue to evolve and slowly grow till you hit enlightenment. Once you understand the philosophy, that philosophy defines the goal, right? So it's not fair to say that everybody's goal should be self-realization, because if you subscribe to Christianity or Islam or Judaism, the goal might be very different than an Eastern religion. So for example, if I was a Christian, then, and a particular sect of Christian, maybe a Catholic or Protestant or a born again, my goal might be to enter heaven and meet Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. As a Hindu, my goal is through deep meditation, I go inside of me and experience God inside of me. Very different, right? One God is in heaven, one God is inside of me. So whatever philosophy you subscribe to, that philosophy is going to define your goal. Once you know the goal, then you can figure out, what do I need to do to get to the goal? Does that make sense?
On one side, it makes sense, but at the same time, you have to
reverse engineer, right?
But at the same time, self-realization can an overarching goal, isn't it?
Yes, not really, because, self-realization, depending on how you define it, for us, self-realization, part of the definition is that through deep meditation, I experience that I am God. Mm-hmm. And in some philosophies, they don't believe God is inside. God is in heaven. God is not in you or me or the trees or the stones. Mm-hmm. So it's a very different experience. I am going to heaven to see God. In my philosophy, I'm going inside to meet God. So two very different goals, and because you have different goals, you need different tools to get there. So I'll give you an example. I was in London last year, and I was doing an event, and somebody asked me, hey, Dandapani, I wake up in the morning, I do some meditation, I do some breathing exercise. Do you think I should do journaling and affirmations? What else should I do in my morning practice? I said, that's the wrong question. The question is, where are you trying to go? What is your goal? If I want to build a table made out of wood, do I bring a cement mixer? No, I don't need cement. I bring wood, I bring a saw, hammer, nails, right? If I'm pouring concrete floor, then, I don't bring a handsaw, right? I bring tools that I need for pouring the concrete. So always reverse engineer spirituality, right? What is the goal you're trying to get? And then what are the tools that can help you get to the goal? So I would recommend first thing, figure out what is your philosophy, because your philosophy defines your goal.
Yeah. So if parts of our community says, okay, it sounds good to feel our inner peace, the love, the inner God, and to reach self-realization is a goal. What are the things? What are the things I need to bring to the table to get there?
To get that. So I would say the first step is really understanding your mind, because there's a lot of people in spirituality that say, we need to forget the mind. The mind is, not something we need in spirituality, but it's not the case. We do everything with our mind. We need to understand our mind. We need to understand how the mind works. We need to be able to control the mind, and then we need to be able to focus the mind. So as we navigate our awareness and go within ourselves, we have to be so single-pointed in our focus. We can't get distracted. People say the outside world is very distracting, everything around us. I beg to differ. The inside world is more distracting than the outside world. So as you go inside, you need to have extreme levels of focus to be very, very clear, single-pointed in your focus. This is the goal I'm going for, self-realization. And I'm going to go. And as I go inside and I see beautiful things about me, and maybe I also start to develop certain abilities. Maybe I become more psychic. Maybe I become more this. I can see auras. I can do this. I can do that. Not to get sidetracked, but to always bring awareness back, the third line on the head, right? Mm-hmm. Bring your focus back to your goal.
I learned from another teacher that the outer world is a mirror of your inner world. Would you agree?
Yes, to a great extent, for sure. It's so fascinating. Sometimes I go into people's houses, right? And I can look at their room, their living room and their dining room, and I can tell what's inside their head.
Or the cellar room.
The cellar room, yeah. Basically, what's in the subconscious is in the outer room. And the same for me. When my desk is messy, my work desk is messy, I know I'm lacking clarity in some areas of my business. So then I get help, I talk to my mentors, I get something, and as soon as I become clear, my desk becomes clean.
What are you doing especially in your daily life, but also maybe on a weekly, monthly base to reach your goal of self-realization? Are there special things? Are you the meditation guy, meditation 3 hours a day? Or what are your concrete practices to reach your goal, to your inner peace, your God's touching moments?
Right now, not very much. So 2 years ago, I was blessed with a daughter. So I have a toddler. And so it takes up a lot of time having a baby in the house. So I do a morning practice right now, which is only maybe 10 to 15 minutes. That's it. Before she was born, I would spend anywhere from an hour to 90 minutes every morning doing my practices. So in the monastery, we were also trained, it was not so much about quantity, but more about quality. Some people sit down and meditate for 5 hours. But if you can get in a half an hour or 1 hour of solid, really concentrated meditation, it's much better than quantity. Quality always over quantity, right? Mm-hmm. Even with training for anything. You can train for 10 hours, But if you can train for 1 hour or 2 hours really, really well, completely concentrated, completely present in your routines and your movements and everything, it's much better. So what am I doing right now? Probably about 10, 15 minutes in the morning, because I spend about 2.5 hours with my daughter every morning. You know, we wake up, we go to the beach, we walk, you know, then I take her to my meditation room. We sit down, we do a little meditation together. She's only 23 months, you know, then we do some chanting and some practices. And then, you know, we do a bunch of other things. I feed her. That's my routine now. But we're moving to Costa Rica. I'm not sure if you know or not, we're building a retreat center in Costa Rica. So we have 33 acres. And we plan to create a botanical garden and a spiritual sanctuary with a temple as well, a Hindu temple. So my goal is, when I get there, is to start slowly. As my daughter grows older, I start increasing my number of hours of practice. But another big thing also, Alex, for me, is that because I'm no longer a monk anymore and I'm a priest, and now I live in the world, I'm married, I have a daughter. As Hindu priest, I can get married and I have a business. One of my goals I need to do is to earn money, because I need to survive. I need to buy food, right? I need to pay rent. I need to pay internet bills, all kinds of things, as you know. And so part of me is to earn money so that I can create a sufficient income for my family, and then also for the project that I'm doing in Costa Rica to impact lives. So that's also a big focus of my life right now, is how do I grow a business, scale a business that's focused on impacting humanity and the environment, and then at the same time also grow and intensify my practice as my time with my family allows it.
Wow. Yeah, what I learned from many successful people, and with success I mean happy people, fulfilled people, that they have a big impact on their life by visualization, by setting goals or visualizing goals or visions or whatever they want to reach. So do you work with these kind of techniques as well? For example, when you are creating such a big project in building such a building and project in Costa Rica?
Yeah, 100%. So we have a 50-year plan for the project, and we have a 300-year plan, right? So with the 50-year plan, I have a vision that I've drawn out, not completed, but I would say probably about 70%, 75% complete. Actually drawn out of what this place looks like, the 33 acres that we have. And in Germany, do you go by hectares or acres?
Both.
Both. Okay, so 33 acres, you get a size. And so, visualization is really important, because when you can get a really, really clear picture of what it is you want, it becomes so much easier. Right, so if I said to you, Alex, I want a boat, it's not clear to you, right? So you say, okay, Dandapani, you want a boat? Is it a fishing boat for one person? Is it for a boat for 10 people? Is it a 20-meter yacht? Is it a cruise ship? What kind of boat are you thinking? But if I showed you a picture and I said, this is what I want, it's easier for you to help me, right? So visualization is not only for the individual to be clear where to focus your energy, but it's also then allows people around you to assist you and help you to manifest that vision, people that believe in your project and in your vision, right? Because now you can show to them and they go like, oh, okay, I see what you're trying to do. Let me help you. And it's also, for my mind, very helpful, right? If I say my goal is to buy an apple, I can go to the store. There's a store in New York where I used to live, maybe like, half a mile from my old apartment, had a huge room full of apples. There's different boxes with all kinds of apples from all over the US and overseas. So if I say I want apple, it makes it very difficult. When I go there, I'll be very confused. But if I show a picture, a visualization, I want a red apple with a little bit of yellow, that's it. Then I know not to buy the yellow apple, the green apple, the pink apple. I just get this apple. So visualization is very crucial and something I use as well.
How do you use it? Just having pictures like, I want to have that boat or that building or that numbers of people visiting your institute in Costa Rica every year. So how do you really, so the people I'm talking to, they really use it for creating it, not only drawing a picture and make it clear what I really want. This is, I think, a big step within the process. So how do you really create it?
Through the usage of affirmations. So affirmation is something I do a lot. And with affirmations, you need a clear choice of words, a clear visualization and feeling. So what are the words? The words could be I want, and I want a red apple, right? And then I picture in my mind a red apple, and then the feeling, what is it like to actually have a red apple? So I use affirmations every morning and every night as part of helping me to manifest what I want to create in my life. And visualization is a huge part of that affirmation. Because visualization lends clarity to the words. Like I said, right, I want a boat. It's not clear. When I have a picture with the word, then it becomes extremely clear.
Yeah.
So that's something that I do every day, affirmations.
Cool. Yeah. When we educate people to get a greater coach, we also teach the way how to create things, how to visualize things and bring it into life. And what we think is very important that the things you visualize and you bring into life are, let's say, coming out of your heart. So those are really heart goals. That if you reach that goal, that really feels good and really feels that you really feel fulfillment. So I think it's very tricky to find out if the goal I set or the vision I create, for example, seeing your studio or the red apple, how do you find out that this is really the right vision which really fulfills yourself?
I would say, one of the things to do is to almost reverse engineer your life. So, if you're 30 years old or 40 years old, imagine yourself at 80 or 90 years old, right? And you were dying and you had 6 months left to live and you're dying. If you were to look back on your life, what would you be proud of saying that you had done in this life? Not what other people are saying, because you shouldn't really care about what others say, right? I mean, there are people out there that think I'm a fake and some people think I'm amazing. I don't care either way. But for me, what's important is when I'm dying and I look back in my life, how would I have lived my life? What would I have done? Am I happy with my accomplishments? Would I be happy or not? And I think that can drive a lot of decision makings. And if you're struggling with that, then the other thing I would recommend doing is look around you for examples. Because we don't know what we don't know, right? So if I give you an example, Alex, when I left the monastery, I decided that I'm no longer going to be a monk anymore. I wanted to choose a life of a priest. And one of the reasons is because as a Hindu priest, I can work and earn money, right? As a monk, I can't work and earn money. So if I can't work and earn money, then I need people to donate to me. I take the donations and I create my project. But now I work and I earn money. I have my own money. I can create my own project. I'm not dependent on anyone or anything around me. So one of the ways I thought I could do it, I could say I could go work for somebody else, or I can be an entrepreneur and do my own business. I said, I'll be an entrepreneur. But I did not know anything about entrepreneurship because my whole life I wanted to be a monk. So how do I visualize what an entrepreneur is? I don't know. So what I started to do was to look for entrepreneurs, right? I started to look for entrepreneurs around me. And there's all kinds of entrepreneurs. Even the guy maybe who's selling tea on the side of the road is an entrepreneur. But I wanted to be a very successful entrepreneur, so I surrounded myself with successful entrepreneurs. I saw what their lives were like. I saw some entrepreneurs who, at the end of their journey, they'd been entrepreneurs for 30, 40, 50 years. At the end of the 50 years, they were completely burnt out. They were stressed out. They had poor health, no happiness, lots of money, bad physical health, mental health, no relationships. Then I saw other entrepreneurs 40 years from now, 50 years from now, very successful, had money, making a difference in the world, had a good family. They still had struggles, but they always work on themselves. Good health, good mental health, physical health. So then I go like, I can choose between A and B. I think I prefer B, and I want to end up where B is. So if you don't know what it is you're looking for, or what, like you said, drives your heart, or that feeling, that you'd feel passion, then look around you for examples, because we have 7.2, 7.3 billion people in this world. There's one person who can be a role model for you, or 5 people. You can take a little bit from each person, put it together, and piece together a role model that you can emulate or strive towards and visualize and try and manifest that life. Right?
Cool. Yeah, thanks. Amazing advice. I wrote a quote from Timothy Ferris, and he said it was the first time, thanks to you, to Dandapani, he enjoyed tidying up his bed, making his bed. What have you done with Timothy? Because I would love to enjoy that as well.
Yeah, so basically, Tim and I spoke at a same event in Toronto a few years ago. And at the event, I talked about developing willpower. And one of the ways to develop willpower is to finish what you begin. So if you start something, finish it, right? And every time you finish something, you're developing willpower. So one example I gave as a practical exercise for developing willpower is to make your bed in the morning. So before you sleep, you floss your teeth, you brush your teeth, you put your pajamas, and then you go to sleep. And then when you wake up, finish the process of sleep. Make the bed, so you finish the process of sleep. So every day when you wake up, make the bed. When you make the bed, you finish what you start. When you finish what you start, you're developing willpower. And then you can use that willpower to help you stay focused on the visualization to manifest your passion and what you love coming from your heart that you want to create in your life. So that's why you make the bed in the morning. And that's why Tim makes the bed in the morning.
I'll start doing that as well, finishing the sleeping routine. Good advice at the same time.
I'll check in on you next year to see how you're doing.
I do. I promise you. The last question I have, Dandapani. Yep. In German, there's a saying that you are who you are surrounded with yourself. So you are maybe there's another thing that many experts say that you are the average of the 5 people you are surrounded with the most time and all that. At the same time, you help people to find out who your energy vampires are. So do you have an advice for our community, for our listeners? How can you identify energy vampires, and why is it so important from your perspective to not to hang out with them and invest too much time into them?
Yeah, so a couple of things I would say, Alex. So the 10 years I spent in the monastery, it was a very strict traditional monastery, and there were only, my guru only had 27 students, so it wasn't hundreds of monks. And he trained us very well, and he worked with us very hard. And I know he trained me very hard. So for the 10 years I lived there, I had intense training and intense practice on my mind and, so many things, right? And I will say to you honestly, even after all that 10 years, plus the 10 years I've been living in the world and continuing to work on myself, the last 20, 30 years of my life, if I spend time with negative people every day, they will probably have the ability to bring me down, even with all my training, right? So I want to make a disclaimer that even me, I'm not immune to it, right? So if you put me with someone negative every single day for 5 months, I will probably feel depressed or sad, right? So that's one thing that's important to understand, that everybody can be influenced. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, how do you identify energy vampire? Always ask yourself, when you speak with someone and you walk away, ask yourself, how do you feel, right? So after this interview, when you hang up on the Zoom call and you turn to your team in the room and you go like, oh my God, that was a horrible interview, then you can say, okay, Dandapani is an energy vampire, right? And your team goes like, yeah, he's terrible. That was so bad. Don't talk to him again, right? See, even the guy behind is smiling, right? And but if after this interview, you turn to everybody and you go like, wow, that was really great. I learned a lot. And you feel uplifted, then you know I gave you energy, I didn't take energy away. So basically, the summary is, when you walk away from somebody, ask yourself, how do you feel? And usually there's 3 answers you can give. Uplifted, I feel good. Neutral, nothing changed. I went to the store, I gave him €2, I got a loaf of bread, I feel the same. Or number 3 is, I don't feel good. I spent 5 minutes with him, I walked away and I went like, wow. That was not a good experience. Yeah. So, and then, but always be compassionate. Huh? It's very, very important to have compassion and empathy, because that person might be having a bad day. Maybe their father died yesterday and they were sad, or they're upset, or something bad happened to them. They lost their job, right? So always, for me, the way I evaluate is, if someone is not uplifting every year for 10 years, then it's a problem. Maybe for 1 year, their uncle is dying because the uncle has cancer or something, and they're not uplifting. It's okay. What do? We support them. We give love, we give empathy, we give compassion. But if they're the same way, not uplifting year after year after year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, it's an issue. right? So we have to be humble, and we have to be compassionate and not judge people very quickly, right? Just because we had one bad experience. If we have 50 bad experiences out of 50, then yes, 1 out of 50, it's okay. Sometimes maybe I'm an energy vampire, but I hope people don't judge me for that, you know?
Dandapani, it was really a pleasure. I know how tight your timetable is. So yeah, giving us so much time and so many thoughts and advices how to improve our lives. And if you have the goal as a human being to get self-realization, I think we got a lot of insights how to reach that. And yeah, as I already said before, it would be a pleasure if once we meet here in Germany, maybe it's a chance to win you for one of our events here in Germany. We keep in touch. I would
love that. Yes, I would love that very much. If there will be some possibilities. And thanks a lot. And if there's a last advice you want to share with the community, feel free. Yeah, I would say, definitely spend time getting to know yourself in self-reflection so that you can identify your purpose in life, and then you can live a life that's in alignment with your purpose. The byproduct of that is being happy. But nobody can tell you what your purpose is. You need to discover it for yourself. So it's well worth investing time to discover your purpose, even if it takes 6 months, a year, or 2 years, right? Yeah. Because then the rest of your life, you can spend a life living in alignment with your purpose.
Yeah, I can totally agree from my own experience that it's time worthy to invest a lot of time in self-realization, and also, first of all, reflecting who you are and who you want to be and where you want to go.
And I'm glad we agree that self-realization is a really good goal.
Oh yeah, I do. So maybe you didn't know before, and maybe part of the community doesn't know. At Greater, we developed our purpose a couple of years ago, and it's self-realization. This is the purpose of Greater, why we are doing what we are doing. This is what we want to contribute to the community, to the world, to the people who are watching the show and going through our programs. And this is also my personal purpose, or the purpose we want to bring into the company, to give a company to give an atmosphere, to give them employees a job where there's potential to find self-realization. So this is our overall purpose. So I think we are.
I love that. I think you're the first company I ever had that wants their employees to be self-realized. Yeah. Congratulations. Good for you for setting that goal.
It's a long way to get there, and it's a lot of effort is needed. But this is, the purpose why we're doing that here. And
wonderful. I'm glad I can support and contribute in some small way. Yeah.
Thank you, Dandapani, taking the time. Good wishes to Florida. Have a good time. And now I wish you a good time with your daughter.
Yes. Thank you, Alex. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.